Well, hey there. Welcome back to Very Selfish Women. Okay, Alana, I'm sorry, but I'm going to spring a little something on you. I love the sound of selfish women because we're all about self-care, right? We help women, we talk to women about going from, self-sabotage over to self-control and self-love. I think I like the name Super Selfish Women instead of Very Selfish Women. It just flows right off the tongue. What do you think?
Super selfish.
Super selfish women. Let's think that over. So don't be surprised if the name has changed a little bit for next week. We're so early on in this, we could do this if we want.
Yeah.
Plus, I just like the idea of being super anything. Okay, well, anyways, what we're going to talk about today, of course, we are the Super or Very Selfish Women. I'm Lisa, this is Alana, and we want to talk a little bit about holiday stress because we all know that it's the most wonderful time, but it's also the most stressful time of the year for so many people. The holidays are a fun time, but there also can be a lot of stress, and I think particularly for women as we are trying to manage our homes, our kids, our husbands, our work, all of that on top of it. I think that there's a lot of pressure at the holidays, and I think a lot of it is self-imposed. So I know for me, some of the stresses that happen in my own life have to do with managing expectations with my own family, the way that I keep my house for our big holiday party that we host this weekend, as a matter of fact. And so I know that my husband doesn't put any stress on me. Work doesn't really put any stress on me, but I do it to myself. Just I want things to be perfect. I want them to be beautiful, and I want them all to be Instagram worthy. And it's really, that's not fair to myself, and I have really worked hard in the last few years to try to release some of that. So what do you think about this time of year? Do you feel the stress, and do you think we're both coaches, do you think that I'm right? Do women feel this?
Oh yeah, and you kind of made a good point there of recognizing what you're doing, and I have a big philosophy around that of once you recognize something that you're doing, whether it's harmful or whatever, you're more able to do something about it. So yes, whether it's self-imposed or it's from your husband, I know many women, as myself included, that it's on us to buy the presents and be thoughtful, and that's a lot to do, depending on how big your families are, who you still buy presents for, all of that, whether it's for people at his work or his family, his mom. Not only Christmas, but anytime there's presents included, because let's be honest, your face is also on that and you don't want it to be a terrible present. So I think there's a lot of that included as well, from other families. This time of the year is always very rough for many women of, yes, the either self-imposed or having to do so much for others, not only because it's Christmas, but also because it's on top of what you already do in your everyday life. And so being able to really kind of decide what's important, what really needs to be done and happen, and what you can get rid of.
Right. I think that right there hits the nail on the head. So I am the queen of list making, and I do recommend to our clients that you actually get a notebook out, get some physical paper, and if you want to put stress at the top of it, but I want you to really consider listing out the things in your life that stress you out. And really just naming them and identifying them is half the battle. And if it's your mother-in-law, and if it is, in my circumstance, sometimes it can be my husband and my kids and all those different things that you are feeling the stress and the pressure about, and naming them and writing them down. Sometimes we do community service. We do different activities and serve in different ways. And once you identify what those stresses are, then you can look at them and say, okay, of my very full plate, are there things that I can take off my plate, first of all? What can I do to not just reduce my stress, but reduce my stressors, the things that actually bring me stress? I have a client who recently was talking about a board that she serves on, and that was one of the things that she decided to take off of her plate. And so just the things that stress you out, what can you get rid of? And then of the things that you're not going to get rid of, like your husband and your kids and your work and your friends, how can you manage that stress? And I think stress management is a really big deal. So I want you to start out with a couple of ways that people can manage when you have your list and the things that are left over. What can you do to actually reduce that stress? You talked about, taking some of the things off the list. What else do you recommend?
Well, also speaking of a list, I think it's important to make a list of the things that you need to do. I think a lot of times some people are list makers and they, find a lot of control in that. A lot of times my most stressed out members don't, and so it's just kind of rolling around in their head, and they hope that eventually they grasp all the things and you remember it. But I think that in itself is stressful of I have to remember this, I still have to do this, and so really write it down. And there's a lot of oh gosh, what's the word, of just enjoyment, I guess, of checking things off, crossing things out, but of just having that solid list, plan to follow. It's down on paper. Once it's complete, it's complete. And I think that's a lot of stress and anxiety that can go away when you have something like that. It's like, okay, there's nothing else. The list is done. Let's move on. Also, activity,
There you go.
we really have
So
to, the biggest thing to combat stress, I tell people a lot, if you're just anxious over something, whether it's Christmas and doing this and having the time and people are traveling and all this kind of stuff, don't sit and tense and stress. It's just terrible for your body, your muscles. You're only going to be doing more harm to yourself. Even if you just get up and distract, go do some laundry, go do something that just takes you away from thinking about whatever it is. Go make that list, whatever it is. I think that's super important because when you stress, your body releases energy, we'll keep it basic, from your muscles, and it just swirls around in your body. And so if you don't actually do anything to burn it, it goes into fat storage. And that's exactly why they call it that apple, that abdomen fat that just goes around your heart, and that's so terrible for you. So whether it's just doing basic activities and staying busy, or get to the gym, do some cardio, it will burn that cortisol that's roaming around in there, but also you'll get that endorphin instead, and you'll feel so much more powerful and in control when you're able to just burn off the stress literally and mentally. And then you can tackle the rest of your day, but really to try not to be stagnant and ruminate into the thoughts, and it just goes downhill quickly that much faster.
Oh, that is all such good information, and I will tell you, I am such a freaky list maker that I'm the woman who, once I've done a task, if I didn't put it on my list, I will actually put it on the list so I have the satisfaction of crossing it off my list. And as funny as that kind of seems, at the end of the day, it does help me to feel productive, because then I'm actually, I've listed out the things that I've done in the day, and I keep a notebook. I am very old school when it comes to my task list, that for the week I have 2 different lists, and one is for the studio and for my work, and one is for my personal stuff, and I list out the different things that I need to accomplish all week long, and then as I go, I mark things off, and there's nothing more satisfying than sort of organizing your thoughts and then crossing things off and helping yourself along to feel productive, because as Alana said, it's when you're living in this chaos of, oh gosh, I need to go do this and do that. Organize your day is one of my number one tips and recommendations for this time of year, but really for every time of the year. And then I will add on to this December is the month where I really make an increased commitment to my cardio workouts. I am not a gym rat. I own a beautiful women's gym, but I do not spend hours exercising. 3 or 4 times a week is good for me, but I do bump up my cardio. particularly because I know that when I get a good sweat on, and I am a walker, I walk on my treadmill, I walk outside if it's not icy. You can get a very good workout doing an elliptical or an arc trainer or a treadmill, but for me, it also helps my emotional well-being because you're getting that endorphin rush and you feel empowered when you're exercising. Aside from the fact that if you're like most women, you're eating a little extra goodies this time of year, so you're just it just really helps you to stay in a good state of mind. And I think my final tip for today, I think the holidays, and again, every time of year, but specifically during the Christmas season, is to really focus on what you're thankful for, and your gratitude and what brings you joy in the holiday season. And if you feel so compelled, I like to I keep a gratitude journal for the morning, and I actually list out the things in my life that I'm thankful for, and I'll put my friendships, my family. This morning, you guys don't laugh, but in my gratitude journal in the morning, I sit and I love when it's still dark out, the Christmas tree lights are on, I have my cup of coffee and my puppy in my lap, and I call it my little prayer chair, and I just do my little quiet time by myself. But I list out in my gratitude, I listed out my little puppy, Scout, shout out to Scout, because that brings me joy, just having my 10 minutes in the morning to myself. So focusing on what you're thankful for this time of year, and really trying to give back. We do Toys for Tots here. We're doing, helping out a local charity for homeless teens this year. So really focusing, I think, on the things that are beautiful and joyful about this season, particularly family, friends, and our freedoms that we enjoy.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And having that decompression time at the end of the day, I think I've mentioned this in another video, but it's just so important to have at least 30 minutes of read a book, watch something mindless on television, whatever it may be. People knit, all sorts of stuff, but to have that time for yourself, not only to decompress, de-stress and that, but to also kind of prepare you to get relaxed for sleep. You sleep so much better when you have a transition time between the chaos of the day that sometimes you just can't avoid, and being able to have restful, good sleep that is so important as well, which will be another topic for another day. But
Right.
to allow yourself that 30 minutes is not that long somewhere in your day, but it is nice to have it at the end of the day to kind of just finish things off. Sometimes people keep a little notebook at their bedside to write down those random things to get them out of your head so you're not dreaming about all of the things that you need to do tomorrow. So little things like that, just to kind of, again, focus on that self-care this time of year, and know that you can't do anything if you're not in a good place.
Right. That, I think we'll end on that note, because nothing is more important than your own wellness, and that really is self-care. Has to do with your state of mind, the food that you're eating, the way that you exercise, and just generally the way that you live your life. To live that healthier lifestyle really is, it's a holistic approach. So we wish you happy holidays, and we'll talk to you again next week.